Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about something that is commonly associated with people with autism and Aspergers, and that is their difficulty in making eye contact with other people. And I just wanted to put my two penneth in about the subject, because it's seemingly one of the ones that's trotted out pretty much all the time when you are making a list of typical Asperger traits. Difficulty with eye contact, and yes, I'd say it's true. But with myself, I do make a lot of eye contact, but only in very short bursts. And I think this goes back to when I was younger and I was an impressionable young man, and I was told by my peers that if you can't look somebody in the eye, then you cannot trust them. You're not to be trusted. And I think that must have kind of stuck with me when I was impressionable, and I made a point of making eye contact with people, predominantly the first time that I would speak to them, because I was also told that first impressions make a difference. You know, you can't get a second chance of making a first impression, and if your first impression is not making eye contact with somebody and looking them in the eye and being sort of upfront and being a straight talker and saying what you mean and meaning what you say, then you're not a man to be trusted. You're not a man at all. So yeah, you know, I grew up in the 70s, so it's very male chauvinistic, I know, but they were kind of some of the core values that I grew up with. But what I would say is I did find it very difficult to do, and I still do now. I have programmed myself to look at people in the eye when I'm talking to them, especially if it's about something important. But I can't keep it up for very long before I have to break eye contact, before I fiddle with something or look down at the floor. I do find it very, uncomfortable, I think would be the best way to describe it. I can't even put into words why I don't like it. It's kind of, I think it's a very personal thing to do, look into somebody's eyes. It's very private and intimate, and I don't like, it makes me feel uncomfortable to look in somebody's eyes when I'm talking to them for long periods of time. Another thing that I was always told to do, which I still do to this day, is give somebody a firm handshake, which is something else I find I program myself to do it, but I find awkward, or it feels awkward to do it. And I definitely had the sense when I was younger that I was making myself do these two things specifically: look people in the eye and to give someone a firm handshake. And if you did those two things, you'd make a really good first impression, and then, you know, things would move forward better, because that's what I wanted to do. I was right in the middle of my trying to fit in stage, trying to be normal. So if I did those two things and made a good first impression with somebody, it was something that person remembered. A good firm handshake, look them in the eye. Since my diagnosis, you know, it's become abundantly clear that those two things, although I do them and I program myself to do them, feel extremely uncomfortable to do. But I still do them, because I still feel even more so possibly now making that first impression. You know, even if someone's been told I've got Aspergers, or even if I tell them I've got Aspergers, if I can come across to them as not being totally weird and whacked out and just, majorly different, then I can make that first impression as like, oh, he's got Aspergers, but do you know what? He seemed quite normal in a lot of respects. Obviously, when you're making a first impression with somebody, it's not until they get to know you over time that they can see autistic traits in you. But when you're making a first impression, I try and look people in the eye, and I greet them or say goodbye to them with a handshake, and it's kind of held me in good stead, I suppose. It goes back to the saying that I've said before. People think I'm too normal. People think I'm too weird to be normal, but too normal to be autistic. So kind of by having really good coping strategies and being really good at masking, you fall between the gap between the two, where people just don't see you as someone with Asperger's or autism, because you've trained yourself, because I had such a late diagnosis. I've trained myself, forced myself against my natural instinct to do these neurotypical greetings and sort of courtships. You look people in the eye and you shake them by the hand. So those two things have always stuck with me, and I've always done them. Perhaps if I'd have got diagnosed at a younger age, I probably would have withdrawn from the handshaking and the close personal contact and touching people and staring them in the eye. I probably wouldn't have done that, but I think because I didn't know and I was late diagnosed, I just programmed myself to do them. And sometimes if people were trying to judge me on what autistic traits, that's one of the big ones that's always tried out: eye contact, trouble with eye contact. But people don't really see that in me, and I thought it'd be interesting to explain to neurotypical why. Now, I do have a problem with it, and it does make me feel extremely uncomfortable, and it's not something I can explain very well, but I do hide it, and I hide it really well, and you probably won't see it. When I was younger, I suppose I was shy and didn't look people in the eye a lot, but I think at some point, especially, I think I do it easier with men, shaking their hand and looking them in the eye. I find it a bit more intimidating doing it with women, looking women in the eye, because as I said, I think it's kind of a very personal thing to look at somebody into their eyes or at their eyes. I think there's a kind of level of connection there that I'm not comfortable with, that sort of backs me off and stops me doing it. But yeah, I thought that'd make a quick video to say, eye contact is a big problem to a lot of people with autism and Asperger's, and that's why they'll be looking away and they won't be looking at you, and they'll be looking at the floor. And actually, I think I'd add to that is one of the reasons why I like wearing sunglasses, not only because of my sensory issues with light, but they're great for hiding behind, because I can look at somebody and I can talk to them, and they can't actually see I'm not looking into their eyes, and I'm looking at some other part of their face or something else, and I can get away with the eye contact when I've got my sunglasses on, and I do feel more comfortable talking to people with sunglasses on. I feel a little bit naked without them on. So yeah, that's a quick 10-minute video about eye contact, which I thought might be of some interest. So thanks for watching again. Until next time, bye bye.